I don't know if you'll be able to hear me today. It's really windy, but I wanted to talk. I walked today, and one of the things I did on my walk is that one of my girlfriends owned some property that I sometimes walk by, and she had planted some mint there. So, and it's, you know how mint, you might not know, but mint will go wild. So there is an abundance of mint there. So I've been taking, you know, a plant or 2 or 5, you know, just, you know, this year I decided I was going to try to transplant some of her mint over to my property. But I read yesterday something about monoculture, and I had to look up the word monoculture. I thought I knew what it meant, and it was more or less what I thought it meant, but I was confused because it said that colonialism always has 3 things that are a part of it. When you have a colonialist society, there's always sugar, there's always enslaved brown people, and there's always monoculture. And I'm paraphrasing, but I'm kind of like, isn't sugar a monoculture? So I'm like, well, let me look up monoculture, because maybe, you know, I don't understand what monoculture is. But it's basically like a plantation, where you have a sugar plantation, or you have a corn plantation, a cotton plantation. You have just one thing growing, and we try to do that so often. Oh my God, that is so pretty. We try to do that so often, and so it got me kind of thinking about permaculture, and it got me thinking about foraging and some of the things that I've learned. This piece of property right here, the house burnt down maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, and they once it was finally demolished, they came and they, you know, put down grass seed, and they put down hay on top of it. So I'm just looking at how it's growing, and there is some grass growing, but you'll notice that there are other things growing. There's plantain growing that I can identify. There's dandelion growing that I can identify. And those are the main things that I can identify easily. But in nature, you don't really have a natural occurrence of monoculture. You might have, you know, 2 or 3 things that are growing next to each other, but you don't generally have a million things that grow next to each other. And that helps to keep things healthy, and that helps to keep things vibrant. That helps to keep things fertile. That helps the land to do well. Hey, German Shepherd. That's just how things are in nature. And then just thinking about farming, or, you know, gardening, when you kind of take and you try to plant something, and then you don't want any weeds or anything else to grow around, so you're spending all this time and effort and energy pulling stuff out because it's not the one thing that you planted in that area that you want to grow. So just, you know, kind of been thinking about it. And permaculture, this is kind of a random conversation because I have some thoughts about it, but they're not coordinated. But permaculture is when, you know, you do purposely plant things, but you purposely plant things that are natural to the environment, and you plant them in such a way that, you know, they thrive and benefit. There's a mutually beneficial thriving situation that comes back again and again and again. It's kind of like you're trying to recreate what happens in nature. You know, you don't have to go out into the abandoned field and plant or weed or do anything. Things are just growing and thriving and doing well. Foraging, I think about, because when I started walking last year, we were, if I'm not mistaken, there were 2 things we had just started. Well, we started studying foraging while we were walking, and there were 2 things. Red clover, I haven't seen any red clover this year that we would pick on a regular, because it's good for the woman's reproductive system and probably other things, but red clover. And then mulberries when they were in season. And I was just joking this morning, I've been practicing for the mulberries. I'm ready to pick and I'm ready to eat, and there's just such an abundance, and there's nothing that you have to do, you know, they just come back year after year after year in abundance. I mean, when it is mulberry season around here, because there are so many lots that are abandoned, I think that some of these mulberries might have been planted on people's property intentionally, but they have thrived in this environment. But, you know, there's an abundance of that to forage from. So, I don't know. I don't have any coherent thoughts, but I'm just thinking about monoculture as opposed to foraging and permaculture, and as opposed to, I guess, monoculture and farming and gardening, as opposed to foraging and permaculture. So I'm definitely a foraging permaculture type person. Some people may call that, laziness, but I figure nature has a thing. Why fight what nature is doing? Just go along with it. So this year I am going to work on, I didn't forage any, I don't think I foraged any dandelions last year, but I see I've already missed one season of dandelions, and I guess they'll be back again with the flowers for me to identify, oh, that's a dandelion, as opposed to the leaves. And I'm going to do some more foraging classes this year. I'm definitely going to work more with plantain and purslane. I've been scared, but I'm going to work with some purslane this year. So we're going to add to what we know about foraging and permaculture, and that's why I'm bringing the men over here to try to get something established that, it's a good natural ant repellent. Mint is just good. We like mint. It's a good bug repellent, period. That's what I got. Fabulous. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Be you, be fabulous, you.